Good morning. Unfortunately, Peloton Prabhu can't be here, so yeah, I'm trying to giving classes not my specialty, but I'm gonna try my best. And yeah, forgive me for Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Natsapraishu Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the god of and by rendering a service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And when we serve under the personality of God, is greatly transcendental. Okay, so yeah, we have quite a bit of verses to get through today. But yeah, just yeah, a quick recap. So when Devahuti got married to Kardama Muni, who remembers what her lifestyle was like back then? When she got married? Mm-hmm.
And then they would like dispute it. Doing a lot of service for her husband, and then they went on like an amazing honeymoon, like a 7-story airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, and but yeah, the point is she was living pretty simply, like a sage actually initially, like when she got married, and so then she had this beautiful, opulent palace, and that's described, and a lot of kids and all of that. But yeah, in the beginning, she lived very simply, like a sage, with her husband. Um, and then now Kapila Dev, her son, is leaving, and she's able to renounce. We'll see the verses, um, because of the simple life that she practiced earlier on. So yeah, that's the main point for today. But yeah, we can start reading the verses. That'd be good. Okay. As instructed by her son, Devahuti also began to practice bhakti yoga in that very ashram. She practiced samadhi in the house of Kardama Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati.
She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became gray. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore only fur.
The home and household paraphernalia of Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who traveled in outer space in airplanes.
The opulence of the household of Karama Muni is described herein. The bed sheets and mattresses were all as white as the foam of milk. Chairs and the benches were made of ivory and were covered by cloth. The lace were golden and the couches were made of gold and very soft pillows.
The walls of the house were made of first-class marble, decorated with valuable jewels. There was no need of light, for the household was illuminated by the rays of these jewels. The female members of the household were all amply decorated with jewelry.
The compound of the main household was surrounded by beautiful gardens with sweet, fragrant flowers, and many trees which produced fresh fruit, and were tall and beautiful. The attraction of such gardens was that singing birds would sit on the trees, and their chanting voices, as well as the humming sound of the bees, made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible.
When Devahuti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband, Kardama, gave her all protection at all times.
The position was unique from all points of view. Saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comfort. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her.
Devahuti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounced order of life. Then her only son, Kapila, left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf.
Overjoyed, thus always meditating upon the Son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Dev, she very soon became unattached to her nicely decorated home.
Thereafter, having heard with great eagerness and in all detail from her son Kapila Dev, the eternally smiling personality of Godhead, Devahuti began to meditate constantly upon the Vishnu form of the Supreme Lord.
She did so with serious engagement in devotional service, but she was strong in renunciation. She accepted only the necessities of the body. She became situated in knowledge due to realization of the absolute truth. Her heart became purified. She became fully absorbed in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all misgivings due to the modes of material nature disappear.
Her mind became completely engaged in the Supreme Lord, and she automatically realized the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. As a Brahman realized soul, she was freed from the designations of the materialistic concept of life. Thus, all material pangs disappeared, and she attained transcendental bliss.
Situated in eternal trance, free from illusion, compelled by the modes of material nature, to forget a material body, just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream.
Her body was being taken care of by spiritual damsels created by her husband, Kardama, and since she had no mental anxiety at the time, her body did not become thin. She appeared just like a fire surrounded by smoke.
Because she was always absorbed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she was not aware that sometimes her hair was loosened or her garments were disarrayed.
My dear Vidura, by following the principles instructed by Kapila, Devahuti soon became liberated from material bondage and achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Supersoul without difficulty.
The place where Devahuti achieved her perfection, my dear Vidura, is understood to be a most sacred spot. It is known all over the three worlds as Siddhapada.
Dear Verdura, the material elements of her body have melted into water and are now a flowing river, which is the most sacred of all rivers. Anyone who bathes in that river also attains perfection, and therefore all persons who desire perfection go bathe there.
My dear Vidura, the great sage Kapila, the personality of Godhead, left his father's hermitage with the permission of his mother and went towards the northeast.
Yeah, we see she's getting back in that mood of simplicity and renunciation, and yeah, and it's due to her ability, due that she was able to do that in the past. So yeah, we'll focus on verse 26. Brahmanavasti Damatir Bhagavati Atma Shamshraye Nivrita Jiva Pati Swat Sina Kleshapta Nivriti Brahmanavastita Matir Bhagavatyatma Samshraye Nivrita Jiva Pati Swat Sina Kleshapta Nivriti. Isha. Okay, so translation together again. Oh, my bad. Oh yeah, we're sorry together. Brahmani in Brahman, Avastita situated, Mati her mind, Bhagavati in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Atma Samshare residing in all living entities, Nivrita free, Jiva of the Jiva soul, Patipad from the unfortunate condition, Sina disappeared, Klesha material pains, Apta attained, Nirvati, transcendental bliss. Okay. Translation. Her mind became completely engaged in the Supreme Lord, and she automatically realized the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. As a Brahman realized soul, she was free from the designations of the material concept of life. Thus, all material pangs disappeared, and she attained transcendental bliss. Would anyone like to read the report?
States that Devahuti was already conversant with the absolute truth. He questioned why she was meditating. The explanation is that when one theoretically discusses the absolute truth, he becomes situated in the impersonal concept of the absolute truth. Similarly, when one seriously discusses the subject matter of the form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes situated in meditation on him. If one has complete knowledge of the Supreme Lord, then the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is automatically realized. The absolute truth is realized by the knower according to three different angles of vision, namely the impersonal Brahman, localized super soul, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if one is situated in knowledge of the Supreme Person, this implies that one is already situated in the concept of the super soul and impersonal Brahman. Should I continue or someone else? Okay. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. This means that unless one is freed from the material entanglement and situated in Brahman, there is no question of entering into the understanding of devotional service or engaging in Krishna consciousness. One who is engaged in devotional service to Krishna is understood to be already realized in the Brahman concept of life because transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead includes knowledge of Brahman. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Brahmano hi pratistham. The concept of the personality of Godhead does not depend on Brahman. The Vishnu Purana also confirms that one who has taken shelter of the all-auspicious Supreme Lord is already situated in the understanding of Brahman. In other words, one who is a Vaishnava is already a Brahman. Another significant point. Oh, should someone else read? Okay, I'll continue. Another significant point of this verse is that one has to observe the prescribed rules and regulations as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yuktahara Viharasya. When one engages in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, he still has to eat, sleep, defend, and mate because these are necessities of the body. But he performs such activities in a regulated way. He has to eat Krishna Prasad, he has to sleep according to regulative principles. The principle is to reduce the duration of sleep and to reduce eating, taking only what is needed to keep the body fit. In short, the goal is spiritual advancement, not sense gratification. Similarly, sex life must be reduced. Sex life is meant only for begetting Krishna conscious children. Otherwise, there's no necessity for sex life. Nothing is prohibited, but everything is made yukta, regulated, with the higher purpose always in mind. By following all these rules and regulations of living, one becomes purified and all misconceptions due to ignorance become nil. It is specifically mentioned here that the causes of material entanglement are completely banished.
Jonathan, I think you had a
The Sanskrit statement, anama
Nariti indicates that this body is unwanted. We are spirits, so, and there was never any need of this material body. But because we wanted to enjoy the material body, we have this body through the material energy under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as we are reestablished in our original position of servitorship to the Supreme Lord, we begin to forget the necessities of the body, and at last we forget the body. Sometimes in a dream, we get a particular type of body with which to work in a dream. I might dream that I'm flying in the sky or that I have gone into the forest or some unknown place. But as soon as I am awake, I forget all these bodies. Similarly, when one is Krishna conscious, fully devoted, he forgets all his changes of body. We are always changing bodies, beginning at birth from the womb of our mother. But when we are awakened in Krishna consciousness, we forget all these bodies. The bodily necessities become secondary, for the primary necessity is the engagement of the soul in real spiritual life. The activities of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness are the cause of our being situated in transcendence. The words Bhagavati Atma Samsare denote the personality of Godhead as the supreme soul or the soul of everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vijambam Sarva Bhutananam, I am the seed of all entities. By taking shelter of the Supreme Being by the process of devotional service, one becomes fully situated in the concept of the personality of Godhead, as described by Kapila, Madguna Shariti Matarina. One who is fully Krishna consciousness, situated in the personality of Godhead, is immediately saturated with love of God as soon as he hears about the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Yes.
Parvati was fully instructed by her son Kapila on how to concentrate her mind on the Vishnu form in full detail. Following the instructions of her son in the matter of devotional service, she contemplated the form of the Lord within herself with great devotional love. That is the perfection of Brahma, realization, or the mystic yoga system, or devotional service. At the ultimate issue, when one is fully absorbed in thought of the Supreme Lord and meditates on him constantly, that is the highest perfection. Bhagavad Gita confirms that one who is always absorbed in such a way is to be considered the topmost yogi. Continue, please.
The real purpose of all processes of transcendental realization, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, or bhakti yoga, is to arrive at the point of devotional service. If one endeavors simply to achieve knowledge of the absolute truth or the supersoul, but has no devotional service, he labors without gaining the real result. This is compared to beating the husk of wheat after the grains have already been removed. Unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate goal, it is valueless simply to speculate or perform mystic yoga practice. In the Ashtanga yoga system, the seventh stage of perfection is dhyana. This dhyana is the third stage in devotional service. There are 9 stages of devotional service. The first is hearing, and then comes chanting, and then contemplating. By executing devotional service, therefore, one automatically becomes an expert jnani and an expert yogi. In other words, jnana and yoga are different preliminary stages of devotional service. The Vibhuti was expert in accepting the real substance. She contemplated the form of Vishnu in detail as advised by her smiling son Kapila. At the same time, she was thinking of Kapila, who is the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, and therefore she completely perfected her austerities, penances, and transcendental realization.
So yeah, a lot is
but what really stood out to me was, you know, she's absorbing her mind in Krishna, and then, you know, she is, you know, perfecting austerities, penances, and realization. And yeah, and then also about, yeah, the causes of material entanglement are completely different. So yeah, that's the power just by mantra and, you know, contemplating Krishna's form, activities, pastimes. Is like, it's very powerful, and material entanglement can, yeah, become vanquished. Did anything else stick out to anyone? Okay. If not, I'll move on. So
I just thought it was interesting that it explained that it was I think it's at the third step in the yoga system. I just never seen that before. I was aware of it, but I never knew like what step it was. The third step. I think it was the Jnana Yoga, or yoga. That was the third step. I just thought that was interesting.
cool. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of class, now she's, you know, renouncing and living simply again, and it's actually it's all of us in the ashram is what we're practicing, like renunciation. You know, we're practicing living simply. You know, we don't have anything too materially. You know, our rooms aren't super lavish. You know, the food isn't 5-star restaurant, but actually we have the most opulent thing, the holy name, and Krishna consciousness, and in so many songs and, yeah, different parts of the scripture, it's mentioned, you know, the holy name is a gem and touchstone, so it is our greed as well. And prashadam is like direct mercy from the Lord. So we're actually so fortunate. You know, it's seemingly simple, but it's actually so spiritually opulent. And so, yeah, it's actually, I wanted to just acknowledge everyone here, like, for taking this time in the ashram, because people don't want to live simply. They want like the newest things, and reflecting on my own life before the ashram, yeah, I mean, I was a devotee, but I still like the simple living, high thinking. That concept of Srila Prabhupada didn't really dawn on me until coming to the ashram. Yeah, I was trying to buy a ton of things for myself. You know, the cutest jacket. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. The cutest jacket and jewelry and all these stuff. And now it's like the bare necessities, because I really like, you know, traveling and preaching and stuff. So it's like what's actually practical for me to like have, and like what do I actually need. So the priorities just shifted for me. And I still have a lot of jacklets, but but yeah, the point is like, yeah, your priorities just kind of shift when you're in the ashram, and I experienced that. Yeah. And then also I was reflecting on my time living with Nanda Prabhu. Most of you all know Nanda. When I was reading the purport about regulation, just like having like consistency and regulation, she's like the queen of that. And so I was very fortunate to have her association for those 2 months. And yeah, it honestly changed me. And just being around her helped me so much. So that's the power of association too. You know, the ashram, you know, is compared to like that rock tumbler analogy, but it's like being around each other is going to keep purifying us and helping us get closer to Krishna. And yeah, even with one person, I mean, Nanda is so elevated. But what to speak of so many different personalities in the ashram. They're all honestly helping us get closer to Krishna. We might not see it in the moment, but everyone is helping some way, subtle or very obvious. And yeah, when our minds are filled with Krishna, it says her mind was completely engaged in the Supreme Lord. A lot of distresses vanish, like it mentioned here. The pangs disappeared. Yeah, all misgivings due to the modes of material nature disappeared. Because yeah, as you all know, we're constantly under the modes, and we do stupid things sometimes, and it's just taking our minds off of that and focusing back on Krishna. We're able to do that and to Krishna consciousness. And yeah, if some of you all know, yeah, like before Krishna House, my whole journey with depression and stuff, my mind was so focused on everything besides Krishna at that time. It's like, oh, this person wronged me, or I could have done this better, or like, just kind of like dwelling in the past and getting consumed by it, honestly. And but when I came to Krishna House, yeah, my mind started being engaged in so many different ways. Singing for the deities, that was my first thing that I really liked doing. And outreach and managing a program and helping others, just like small things around the ashram, but also like, bigger things, more personal coaching and stuff, all that I've experienced here. And it really just detached myself from the painful situation I was in and attached to Krishna, because it was through service I was able to do that. And yeah, it feels so purposeful, like to do something meaningful with my life, like going out and meeting people and telling them about Krishna. And so the focus is not on me anymore, it's about helping other people. It's like someone mentioned in class, is like, if the house, what was it? It was like, if the house is burning down, don't just wait for someone to put out the fire, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's like, that's what I felt in Amherst also when I was with Nanda for those 2 months. Is like, I'm like one of the 2 only people that know about Krishna on this campus, probably, like at this moment. And I could sit in the campus lounge and eat banana bread, or I can like motivate myself a little more, go out and meet people. So yeah, your priorities just kind of shift, and yeah, you get this kind of strength that is, yeah, sometimes a bit foreign to us, but it's very powerful. And yeah, those are some of my thoughts. But I wanted to ask you all a question. What's one thing or quality that you've renounced or is practicing renouncing in the ashram? And I guess I'll give it. Yeah, I have it. Yeah, so exactly. And so my answer would be, I noticed my need for perfectionism diminishing. For example, right now, giving this class, usually I would like spend like so long preparing for something like this, like even a month. But just kind of like, yeah, trusting Krishna more, taking risks. And I realized that if I'm so obsessed with everything being perfect, then I can't serve Krishna at all. Because we're still in the material world, and everything's not going to be 100% perfect. But yeah, we keep trying our best. What's something else that comes to
mind? For me, the intolerance of other people's mistakes. Since I've been at Krishna House, I've let a lot of things go that I felt like before I may have held on to an iron grip that were specifically like mistakes, like towards me, and just seeing that, okay, this is a place where everybody's learning and growing, and just giving that time and patience and space to watch everybody grow, because I've seen that it's possible here. So
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Okay.
I'd say like it's being less self-centered and like self-space centered. So like instead of focusing like, oh, I want this, and then once I have that thing, oh, what do I want now? Instead of like that mindset, it's more of like, what could I do with this time? What could I do with this? You know, like it's more of a setting down that habit of like self-pleasing has opened the opportunity for like pleasing others and seeing others happy and making other people smile.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that's how, society's structured, all about me, it's like my career, my education, my family, my friends, but it's like, wanting to see that success for other people and facilitating,
Smoking vapes.
Awesome. I'm glad you were able to.
Yeah, moving into the ashram, depending on how much conditioning we have prior, there are a lot of things that shift. And the regulations, you can feel like you're giving up something. But really, it's such a blessing to learn that you simplify your life a lot, and you learn that, yeah, I could live on, I don't need to go make $1 million because I don't have all these material desires like I once did. Like me and John went to the mall a few days ago, and I was like, is that not allowed? And I was like, oh, this, like, I don't like any, like, I don't really want anything here. And like, I'm not, it's just so cool to compare it to where I was like a few years ago, where it'd be like, oh, this is so fun to like look at all these things. I was like, I would want a shirt with Krishna on it. Like, I don't want any of these. And yeah, just like you have less desires and less need to be on a rat wheel to get all your desires.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's relatable. And what came to my mind when you shared how you went to the mall, yeah, like I feel like it also has a lot to do with association again, and just like peer pressure and stuff like that. Like I remember going to the mall with my friends, and they'd be like shopping for dresses, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I need a dress. It's like, but like if you go to the mall with devotees, they're like, nah, there's better stuff on Krishna.com, or like I don't know. So so yeah, it's like it's just being around those people with similar goals is really important to encourage us to stay on the right path. Anybody else? Okay. But I think there's a lot of things that are initially really hard to give up, but then like in hindsight you look back and you're like, wow, thank God. Yeah, because it's like at the end of the day, a lot of the things are just so entangling. Actually, I don't know exactly where I heard this from, but I remember telling someone this on books. Like it's actually like the 4 regulations is actually not like restricting, it's like 4 regulations of freedom, something like that. And so yeah, it's all for positive. It's not to be like super fanatical or anything. It's just to help us in our path to Krishna. Yeah, and yeah, I guess one more thing I can talk about is like just like the importance of, I mean, you all being here, you probably realize the importance of Krishna consciousness, and I'm still realizing it day by day. But
the importance of sharing it with others, because yeah, that's where we get a lot of purpose and joy in, yeah, and it detaches us from, you know, the concept of just it's about me. It's all about what I want, and you know, it's like about how can I help this person get closer to Krishna and connect, because they have like they've forgotten about him. It's like jogging that memory. You know, it could even, but it's always about, you know, being a friend to them at first. Yeah, because nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So, um, so yeah, I try to do that when I'm telling people about Krishna, you know, like actually getting to know them a little, and, you know, showing that like I'm a person and sharing my story and stuff, all that helps connect. Yeah. Yeah, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than nor will there ever be. Yeah, but yeah, that's my encouragement. And you know, it's also important to know that, you know, when you're sharing Krishna with these new people, they're not going to renounce everything immediately. You know, like that's what the ashram is for. That's why I'm encouraging people to live in ashrams, because when you're around people, you know, with this mood of just um, serving Krishna and not worrying too much about themselves and trusting that Krishna will take care of themselves, it's contagious. And yeah, I remember when I first started coming around the morning program, um, it was just contagious, like joy, like of just like all of these young people around me, like singing so early in the morning, like because before coming to Krishna House, I lived a month in the Alachua temple, and that was sweet, but it's, you know, just seniors, which are amazing, but it's like, you know, you don't see someone your age taking up Krishna consciousness and like being that kind of role model. I feel like it's important to have like a role model that's your peer, also like more your peer, and you can kind of see like their life trajectory, as well as having like senior mentors and stuff. That's very important. But yeah, there was like no young people in the Mongol arts, you know, and so yeah, coming here was just like, whoa, this is where everyone is. So yeah, that's my experience. Yanni?
That's a great point that renunciation takes time, and you shouldn't expect people to be able to do everything right. Even for me, I was coming around for like 2 years, and I had this idea. I'm like, oh, but like, you know, you know, they have the answers, but I don't want to like give up my alone time. And then yeah, that's like something I kind of had to renounce. Like, okay, maybe I'll get less alone time here. But I've actually come to learn that like, I mean, it's good, but I don't need it like I thought I did. Like, and that you can be, you can still have your inner peace with people around. Like, it's not like they're mutually exclusive things.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's something I'm working on too, is like, yeah, that balance of just like giving and then like, you know, also like taking time to yourself. Actually, that's why japa is so important. I realize, you know, because it's like you're filling up your, you know, spiritual, like, yeah, internal ness. Sorry. and and then yeah, you're able to share that with others, you know, after your cup is filled. And yeah, and it's actually when I was living with Nanda Prabhu, she didn't let me she didn't let me go out on books until I had like I think 12 of my rounds done. That's why I'd go to campus kind of late, because I was more poor at time management back then. So anyway, so yeah, the point is, yeah, making sure we're, you know, feeling nourished spiritually before trying to give that nourishment. Then we can end up feeling burnt out.
On renunciation, is there like false renunciation, or like could it give up too much too quickly?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like we just spoke about, like renunciation. Honestly, it's gradual. You can't just, even like people that are trying to break out of like a negative habit. It's like, take like, baby steps towards like, breaking it off. I feel like the same as with renunciation. Obviously, if you want to live in the ashram, follow the four regs. So those you kind of have to just cut out immediately. Not kind of, you have to. And and then like, but when you're preaching to someone, like a random passerby, and you're like connecting with them and keeping in touch, if you're trying to get them to stop eating meat, you kind of just encourage them to do so gradually. Like maybe you can stop eating this type of meat, and then gradually. So yeah, I think in general, yeah, renunciation is gradual, and um, and you were in what was the other point you were saying about? Oh, false renunciation. Yeah. Just like, yeah, I think that's where transparency comes in, and just like accepting where you're at, actually, um, and having mentors that you can just express where you're at, and just kind of like, troubleshoot, like just yeah, that's really important. Just being honest with yourself and with your mentors, and then you'll just see like expedited growth without having to have that feeling like falsely renouncing, like I just have to give up everything. It's like, no, everyone is different at different places in life. That's why there's different ashrams. So yeah, just being transparent and expressing that transparency with mentors, I found very helpful. Does that kind of help?
Actually, a term for that false renunciation. Rupa Goswami calls it Falgu Vairagya. There's this river, it's called the Falgu River. So on top it looks like it's dry, but then if you dig a bit, there's a lot of water flowing. So Rupa Goswami talks about how we might superficially renounce things, but internally we have so much desire. And so his point is that we should renounce not just for renunciation's sake, but renounce for a service for Krishna. So if you're doing administrative renunciation, service, yeah, if we just doing some renunciation, I don't know, just for renunciation's sake, just to look cool, kind of boost our false ego.
Yeah, on the verse, it said that because she became so absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme, like all the difficulties that come from the material world are kind of just vanquished, right? That reminds me of I was thinking of this thing that hackers do. It's called DOS, or denial of service. What they do is that they flood a website with like fake users, which then like the website is still up and running. So like actual users that want to buy something or access a certain product, they can try to click, but it won't work because the fake users are kind of overloading the network or whatever. So also our consciousness, right? Like if we can overflood our consciousness with Krishna consciousness, then when those material desires try to come in, then it's going to be harder for them to access our mind in this way.
Yeah, wow, that's a cool point. Yeah, it's yeah, the more we fill our minds with Krishna, it's like, now and then, some things might come and try to get to us, and the latest BTS song, or like something like that. No, but I'm speaking about myself, and but it's like, just like the importance of just acknowledging it, and kind of you're able to, your desires just become Krishna conscious. Like you want to listen to kirtan instead. Like it just like naturally kind of changes because you're flooding your mind with Krishna. The subtle desire. Yeah, I still like BTS, but it's like I feel like there's like a less like hankering. Like I you know, I have to be on the YouTube when the music video is dropping. You know, like it's not like that anymore. It's like, you know, if I feel like when I'm with like some friends, I'll watch the video. You know, like it's like less imperative to act on those desires. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Oh, Radhika, I noticed your hand also.
Yeah, regulated my also coming in, like acknowledging where we're at and false pronouncing. Like if I like all of a sudden stop watching if I'm like I'm not gonna watch any more TV or movies, like I'll grow resentful inside because I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Such a good point. Yeah. Uh-huh. Radhika, did you have something? Oh. Anyone else have anything on these points? Jonathan?
In the report, one of the things that stood out to me was it says, as soon as we are reestablished in our original position of servitorship to the Supreme Lord, we begin to forget the necessities of the body, and at last we forget the body. And I was thinking about that when Carly was sharing that here at Christian House, we get the opportunity to be engaged in so much service and get to practice being out of self. Because like when I'm thinking about when I'm in the self-centered state, that's when all the things, we were just talking about happen, like my wants, my needs, what I want to indulge in, and basically starting and getting into that mindset of duality, like this person's my friend because they're helping me get the things I need, and this person is not my friend because they're keeping me from getting the things I need. And that's when resentments grow and anger grows and all that stuff happens just because I'm in a self-centered state, in a mindset. But it says, as soon as we're established in the original position of servitorship to the Lord, because I've also been in a position of servitorship in other relationships in my life. But when it's to Krishna, then it's like all these things that cause distress seem to just not be there. And I was thinking about like sometimes like the 10-hour festival, the 10-hour kirtan festival we had here. It's like there'll be some days that Christian House is so like involved in setting up the temple and what kirtan am I gonna do and practicing, and then there's things going on in the kitchen and you're cooking and there's guests coming, and then that comes in and you're like, oh yeah, I want to start talking to the guests and make sure they're having a good experience. And then next thing you know, it's 10:30 at night and you haven't eaten or drinking any water or even used the restroom, and you're just like, oh wow, I forgot about all that stuff, and it's actually such a liberating feeling to be outside of a bodily platform just for a moment. So that's what I was thinking about.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I relate to that. Yeah, it's just we've so absorbed in the event or the activity that we're doing in service. And it's like, yeah, our problems, our needs, everything. I'm not to say you shouldn't, address your needs, but it's like just the point of just becoming so absorbed is like they don't even, come in your mind. Like it's like something you need to do. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. We're over time, right? Any other last point?
I like the way that you phrased that you're liberated from your body for a moment. That phrase is really powerful because that's kind of like the state that Prabhupada's in when he does his fasts. And he was sending the Maha to all the devotees, and all the people that were doing like 1 day fasts were like, Prabhupada, how are you doing it? He was on his like 30-day 30th day of fasting. And it was similar, like Prabhupada was saying, like that it was similar to that feeling of being liberated from your body for a moment.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Anything else? Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita ki jai.